Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews, and this is Generation X Politics. This video is sponsored by contribution from Faye, and here is her story. I would just like to point out what society has become like on my reservation due to big government. The Navajo Reservation is a land leased to the Navajo people by the U.S. government. Supposedly we have sovereignty, but do we really? I'm pretty sure if the landlord wanted to come a knocking and do renovations or evictions, I think they could. I think you guys are protected, believe it or not. I mean, you don't follow all the laws that in each state. You guys are able to write your own laws. I don't know if the government would be able to just sweep in there and take your land back. I mean, they got the guns. I'm sure they could if they really wanted to. But legally, I'm unsure. So here's how I see things. The United States government overcorrected in compensating the native people with freebies. The system is now set up as such that the more poverty you are in, the less you try to support yourself, the more the government will be your sugar daddy. Right, that's what they did in the inner cities. Right, they had the same strategy in the inner cities in the 50s. Okay, all they did was expand what they had done to the Indian reservations to black people once civil rights and once the Civil Rights Act and once the Democrats realized that they weren't going to be able to physically hold black people in bondage anymore, they were going to have to do it psychologically. So what they did was they implemented what they did to the Native Americans onto the inner cities. It's just an expansion, you know. The only difference is you guys got casinos now and black people get shit. I don't mean to laugh, but that's the reality. That's the reality. And understand something. Life on the reservation, I know, is brutal. It's horrible. You know, with drugs and alcoholism. That's all set up to keep everybody subservient. Okay? Subservient to, and who does the government? They put a couple of the people, one of your Indian chiefs or whoever in charge. They suck up all the money, all the federal funds. They get it all. They keep all the regular natives as victims, and then they suck up all the money. Same thing that happens in the black community, same exact thing. Same thing. The system is now set up as such that the more in poverty you are and the less you try to support yourself, the more government will be your sugar daddy. All it has done is hurt my people and has disempowered us as it was supposed to. There is so much red tape on Navajo Nation. You have to go through 3 forms of government to start a business, and as a result, there are hardly any. That's the point, to keep you subservient. The closest that anyone can get to entrepreneurship is selling arts and crafts or food at the local swap mart. There's a handful of corporations, such as Burger King, that have established businesses there on the reservation, but most of the time they are shopping on the outskirts of the reservation at towns with mall marts and such. How I wish my people were empowered enough to open up their own retail stores and businesses. So a majority of the people are living in subsidized housing and on welfare. Some still live in their self-built homes without running water in America. Some have bought trailers and work for a living, but those are a few. And even then, that means the people that are employed are still employed by the government because of the hospitals, schools, and housing, and all the agencies that exist to dole out the federal funding are, of course, run by some form of government. Some go to college and become politicians, admins, and like my uncle, school administrators, who mostly embezzle federal funding before it reaches intended appropriations. And that's what I was telling you. They put these people, they select few in charge, and they steal all the money. Okay? The Indian reservations have their Jesse Jacksons and their Reverend Al Sharptons too. They have them too. They have their preachers and deacons, and they have them too. They're going to tell you all the time how you're the victim, this isn't your fault, yada, yada, yada. Oh, and they're going to suck up all your money and all that help that you need. Yeah. You'll never get it. They take it. I guarantee you the Navajo chief is driving a nice car. But guarantee you he's not driving a beat-up pickup truck, right? Right? I bet these people don't shop at the swap shop, do they? Do they? I have sat in on Navajo Nation Council delegate meetings, which is basically our version of a Senate meeting, and they mostly talked about money as they lobbied from the government, the federal government, and how they were going to divvy it up. There are still laws of prohibition on Navajo Nation, and in my opinion, that psychologically makes the individual want it even more. As a result of all these things, I look at my reservation and my people, and I see high level of domestic violence, alcoholism, crime, drug use, suicide, depression, and the missing and murdered indigenous women. Well, and most of those women have been murdered by their own families because there's no value. Again, this is a culture historically that didn't really have, because this was another culture that had no problem with self-sacrifice as little as 200-300 years ago. That's the reality. It's a thing in the media, and it's blamed on trafficking. And yes, some of them probably did fall victim to that. But what nobody wants to talk about is most of those missing and murdered indigenous women are missing and murdered at the hands of their lovers. Yes, okay. Their lovers, husbands, and or family members. It brings me no joy to speak like this of my own people, but I do it because it needs to be a warning to the rest of America. Well, what you don't understand is the reservation model is nothing more, okay, has been expanded to the inner cities now for 60 years. Same model. Once they realized they couldn't control them physically anymore, black people, this is what they did. Now, as far as what's going on, the Navajo Nation, you have to get off the reservation, Faye. You have to get off. I know you have, this is who you are, this is who you identify in, but it's a toxic culture you're living in. Okay? And by your own admission, in their own Senate meetings, it's all about the money. You will not change them. Why? Because, look, like you said, they put no value on human life, and especially women's lives. Because you speak out of turn there, these people will make you disappear. For real. For real. It's a shame. It's a real shame. It really is. But this, the native culture, this is a culture, when we discovered it here, was running around in loincloths, shooting bows and arrows. They didn't even have a wheel. Fighting each other, cutting each other's heads off. This was this is a brutal culture. And we fought them for 300, 400 years. The unfortunate thing, Faye, nothing's going to change on that reservation. Nothing. And you're right, it is a warning to the rest of America, but the rest of America's already been experiencing it, because what they did is they took the reservation model and then they rolled it out to these inner cities. Just like you're hearing Brexit and people talking about, minorities and black people leaving the Democratic Party, leaving the plantation, it's the same mentality. You're just on another plantation, Faye, and it's not going to change because the overseer is in cahoots, okay? Your chieftain is an overseer in cahoots with the slave master. And it's never going to change. It's never, ever, ever going to change. The Indian reservation was the blueprint to the inner city. It was. When they realized they weren't going to be able to keep black people in physical chains, they were going to have to keep them in mental ones. The same thing they did with the American Indians. Put them in reservations. So what did they do? They made the inner cities just larger scale reservations. Only difference now is some of these reservations have casinos. It's still toxic. Nothing's going to change, Faye, on that reservation. You have to get off of it. You have to. Just like in the inner cities, they have to break it. There's a better chance to break the hold on the inner cities than there is in the Navajos, because in Native America, because there has never, ever, ever put any value on the women in that culture. And that's from within the culture. That's not me saying that. That's from within the culture, because look what still happens. You're worse off. You need to get off that reservation, because the reservation was nothing more than a blueprint for the inner cities. That's what they did. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for your contribution, Faye, and your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you, as this channel is 100% demonetized by YouTube. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Generation X Politics. Take care.